Today's episode is a story from the Ramayana. It begins with a final battle between Ram and Ravan, and it ends with a non stop emissions free direct flight from Lanka to Ayodhya. Namaskar and welcome to Stories from India. This is a podcast that will take you on a journey through the rich mythology, folklore, and history of the Indian subcontinent. I am Narad Muni, the celestial storyteller and the original Time Lord. With my ability to travel through space and time, I can bring you fascinating stories from the past, the present, and the future. From the epic tales of the Mahabharata and Ramayana to the folk tales of the Panchatantra, to stories of Akbar Birbal and Tenali Raman, I have a story for every occasion. The purpose of the stories is neither to pass judgment nor to indoctrinate. My goal is only to share these stories with people who may not have heard them before, and to make them more entertaining for those who have. In this episode, we are continuing the Ramayana. We are nearing the end of the main storyline. Normally, in an effort to keep each episode standalone, I recap the story so far. I'm going to break from that pattern. You'll hear a recap, sure, but not from me. Let's go straight to the commentators box. Harsha Shastri and Ravi Bhogle, over to you. Good day, ladies and gentlemen. This is Harsha Shastri. I'm joined here at the Esplanade by my friend Ravi Bhogle. The weather is sunny and warm, but the seats are all cool because they are full of Lankan fans. There doesn't seem to be much support for the Vanars here, but that is to be expected. This is home turf for Ravan. And what a fascinating lineup we have for you today. This promises to be a nail-biting finish with twists, turns, and dramatic innings. The run-up to this grand final battle has been astounding. And now we are finally here at the ultimate showdown between Ram and Ravan. It all started in the kingdom of Ayodhya, the home ground of our star player, Crown Prince Ram. His innings started strong with the crowd cheering him on as the natural successor, the man to lead the team, if you will. But then came an unexpected googly from Queen Kaikai. She used her boons to send Ram into exile. A classic case of a batsman being sent back to the pavilion on a dubious LBW decision, where no DRS can save you. So Ram went off, not to the pavilion but to the forest, for a challenging 14-year stint. But he didn't go alone. Lakshman, his trusty brother, at the non-striker's end, and his wife, Sita, stood firmly by his side. They showed the solidarity of a strong batting lineup. Together, they faced dangers in the wild, which threw at them a series of bouncers and yorkers, and even a few beamers. Absolutely, Harsha. Now let's fast forward to the crucial middle overs. We have the sly demon, Ravan, the 10-headed ruler of Lanka, who played a sneaky reverse sweep by abducting Sita while Ram and Lakshman were completely caught off guard. Ram then teamed up with Hanuman, the all-rounder in this lineup, who always plays an aggressive T20-style innings even in test matches. Hanuman leapt over the ocean, scouting the opposition's territory and literally setting Lanka on fire. Spot on, Ravi. Hanuman's recon revealed Sita's location, and he returned with crucial intelligence that could swing the advantage back to the Vanars. There began the epic team huddle, where Ram assembled his army of monkeys and bears. They built a bridge to Lanka, showcasing their superb teamwork. Absolutely, Harsha. The stage is now set for the final match, the clash of the titans. Ram's squad takes to the battlefield with the precision of a well-prepared team. And we are in the final overs here. Ravan, the seasoned captain of Lanka with his 10 heads, 10 strategies, 10 variations if you will, stands firm. But Ram has truth and justice and morals on his side. And some divine weaponry, not to forget. He seems ready to face anything Ravan can bowl at him. Yes, Ravi, as the match progressed, we saw some brilliant strokes from Ram. Ravan threw everything at him. His son Indrajit, his brother Kumbhakarna, and all his generals. The equivalent of pace, spin, and more than a few bodyline deliveries. But Ram, composed and focused, countered each one with skill and precision. And now, Ravan is left with no one to rotate the strike with. This has been a battle of wits and endurance. A match that is reaching its thrilling final moments. Most recently, Hanuman had a sleepless night after he dived into the underworld and rescued Ram and Lakshman from Ahiravan. No rest for the wicked, eh, Harsha? And there you have it, folks. The stage is set for the ultimate climax, the final delivery. The Ram-Ravan face-off is not just a match, it's the crescendo of an epic innings, where strategy, skill, and sheer willpower will determine the victor. Let's go down to the pitch for a little inspection. Sachin Gavaskar, what is your report on the pitch? Good morning, Harsha and Ravi. This is a lovely day and the grounds are nice and wet, maybe even slushy, which will favour Ravan. No chance for the Vanars if they try to spin rocks his way. But then again, the Ayodhya brothers Ram and Lakshman have a lot in their arsenal that they could use here. Nothing too exciting about the bounce. Rocks and other projectiles may not turn much on this surface. Their best bet is to vary their pace and dodge all of Ravan's volleys. Ravan may have the advantage of being immune to attack from every angle. Sure, with Indrajit, Kumbhakarna and a bunch of generals gone, he has little in terms of support. But we are talking about Ravan here, the one who casually dropped a mountain on someone. He can't be defeated by any demon or god. To him, every delivery is basically a free hit. Thank you, Sonny. Here comes Ravan onto the pitch now. He's in his fancy new chariot and he's got a fancy new bow and fancy new arrows. After Ram broke all the old ones a few episodes ago. This is a tense moment right away, with Ram stepping up to the crease to confront Ravan. I must say that is brave. Ram doesn't have a chariot or even Hanuman's shoulders right now. Hanuman seems to be fighting his own demons on the other side of the field. Ravan has the high ground here. It's a precarious situation for Ram to be in. Right, Ravi. You could say that Ram has the moral high ground, but that's not going to help him in this very physical battle. Ooh, that was a close one. That arrow from Ravan almost hit Ram. If the Ayodhya prince hadn't dodged quickly, that might have been the end of his innings. I have to say, Ravan's batting average against the Vanars is pretty impressive. Indrajit was supposed to be the archer extraordinaire on the Lankan side, but Ravan's skills here show that the tree isn't very far from where the apple's been falling. Right you are, Harsha. Ram is on the counter-attack now. He readies a different arrow, and this looks like a formidable one. He launches it towards Ravan. Ravan is in a panic now. He tries to swing at it with the sword and makes a complete hash of it. And oh my! Ravan takes a tumble and slips. He's mighty fortunate there, the 10-headed king of Lanka. If he hadn't caught a deflection and slipped at the last moment, the arrow would have gone straight through him. I'm pretty sure there was some brief contact there, as we are just getting ultra-edge confirmation. Yes, Ravi, that's a nasty spill there. Ravan is enraged now, probably more to do with his own undignified fall. How clumsy can he get? But it might also have been a lack of balance there. Can you imagine going through life balancing 10 heads? I can't, Harsha, and not many of us can. I know Brahma has 4 heads, for example, but even those are symmetrically distributed in every direction. Having 10 linear heads doesn't do much for Ravan's field of vision. But what is this now? I see him taking a massive arrow. Is this Ravan's secret weapon? The arrow is shaped like a snake. How it flies straight through the air, I don't know. Ravi, I don't think it's the Nagpash that his son used previously. It's obviously snake related though. Oh, I see it now. Goodness gracious, look at how the arrow has multiplied into thousands of snakes. And they're all headed straight for Ram. Could this be the end? And all of Ravan's 10 heads are screaming, how's that? And I can't see Ram. He's obscured by a cloud of snakes. Can he break out? And he does! My goodness, he does break out of that in style. What a clever idea to use a Garud arrow to counter all those snakes. And I know you know this, Ravi, but I don't know how many of our listeners know. Garud is the king of the birds. He's Vishnu's mode of transport, and he's had more than a simple rivalry with snakes. That was a very effective defense from Ram there. I wonder what he'll do next. But I have to say that this lack of a chariot is putting Ram on a sticky wicket. Well, those two experts providing the commentary were absolutely right. So let's take a brief detour and cut over the scene to Swarg, or heaven, where Indra, its ruler, who was also the king of the Devs, was listening intently to Harsha and Ravi. His wife, Shachi, was also with him, and she had an important input at this point. Hadn't you better do something about it? Ram needs some kind of an advantage. But, my dear, the umpires might consider that outside interference. Face it, Indra. This is not a fair game. It has never been a fair game. The moment Ravan abducted Sita, he broke all kinds of rules there. And if it's any consolation, you won't be playing dirty. You could, go visit the battlefield in person, and just by accident, you could forget your chariot there. You don't really need a chariot to travel. Indra considered that and decided that his wife was absolutely right. So that's exactly what happened, and in a few moments, Indra's charioteer, Matali, was offering his services and the chariot to Ram. Ram gladly accepted. I have to clarify something here. Ram was awesome, and chariot or no chariot, the outcome of the battle would have been the same. It may have saved him a few moments, but that's all. Let's go back to the commentary box. Look at Ram's magic arms, Ravi. He's moving so fast now. They look like a blur. Arrow after arrow, he's been firing non-stop at Ravan. And now it looks like Ravan is on the back foot here. Sublime timing there from Ram. And what a beautiful square cut. He straight away knocks off one of Ravan's heads. But what's happening here? It looks like... Yes, Ravan's head has sprung back up. The Lankan fans are cheering wildly. From their view, all 10 heads are protected. The Indian fans look dejected now. How could they hope for victory now, if this is the kind of sorcery that Ravan has on his side? It's not quite as simple as the Hydra from Greek mythology, where you cut off one head and 3 more appear. In the Hydra's case, you could soon end up with more heads than body by weight, and then the Hydra will be unable to move at all. That strategy of cutting off heads is not going to work against Ravan. He's going to keep his balance. I have to say, the Vanar side may be completely stumped here. But look now, Harsha, Ram is getting a different arrow, and something that I have not seen before. Interesting that he had a quick word with Matali before reaching for it. This arrow looks like it was made by Brahma. I definitely see Brahma's logo on it. It's a brilliant arrow. Never seen one so pointy and with such a gleam. Ram is positioning it and he's launched it. Ravan is trying to counter, and that's a googly. Ravan went left and the arrow swerved right, and it has hit Ravan right in the chest. The king of Lanka has been thrown out of his chariot. I repeat, the king of Lanka is out of his crease and he has collapsed. Could this be the end of a mighty fine innings? Ravan stays down. Is this all just a trick? All the action has suddenly stopped. Everyone is silent. The Lankans have dropped their weapons, and the Vanars have stopped attacking as well. Ram and Vibhishan step up to Ravan. Is this a trick? Ravan seems to be definitely out of the game here, and just to be absolutely sure, they are going to send it upstairs. They are going to review it with the DRS, the doctor's review system. Sushain, the Vanar, who's the medical examiner here, and the third umpire almost, you might say, is rushing onto the scene with his little black bag and stethoscope. He's examining Ravan. He's raised his finger. That's the signal that confirms it. This is victory. This is the mission that Ram, Lakshman and all the Vanars set out to accomplish. They have finally done it. Full credit to them for an amazing victory here. Ram has managed to defeat a king who could not be defeated by any god or demon. This is the day that is going to go down in history. Thousands of years from now, people will point out to this day, to this moment, to indicate when good overcame evil. This is the day Ram conquered the 10-headed monster king. Yes, Ravi, I agree with you on the significance of this day for future generations. We probably should start by taking a day off every year from now on. It's the 10th of the month, and Ravan has 10 heads, so I propose we call it Vijayadashmi. But what a moment! The Vanars are doing the victory lap, and the Lankans don't seem all that dejected, now that we have just learned that Vibhishan is to be the next king. But folks, that's all we have time for this time. Let me hand over the mic back to Narad, who's going to take you listeners through the rest of the story now. Thank you, Ravi and Harsha. I will take you listeners through the rest of the story. But to call it a celebration isn't very fair. There was joy, of course, but there were many Vanars who had died. And besides, they weren't done yet. Defeating Ravan was just a step. They needed to find and free Sita from the dungeons or wherever Ravan had imprisoned her. A search was launched. Ram, Lakshman and Hanuman at the head of it. It was a very short search. They found Sita quickly enough in the first place they looked. The same Ashokvatika that Hanuman had first found her in, all those days ago when he had come alone. Sita looked at Ram, and Ram looked back at her. It was an emotional moment, not just for Ram and Lakshman, but for everyone assembled there. There was not one dry eye in the whole crowd. Tears flowed freely, including, I confess, my own. After all the hugging and crying, and after things had calmed down a bit, Ram asked Sita about how she had been treated by Ravan. He was not suspicious or fishing for gossip or anything. He genuinely wanted to know. Sita said that Ravan hadn't laid a finger on her, other than during the abduction itself. And even then, he was probably wearing gloves so as not to leave behind fingerprints. And if Ram wasn't believing her, she was willing to step into a fire to prove it. Ram thought for a moment and said that it wasn't a bad idea at all. The fire, he meant. Not that he doubted her. Absolutely he didn't. If she said Ravan hadn't touched her, Ravan couldn't have touched her. But the fire was a good idea because it was a disinfectant. It would be good protection from all these foreign germs and viruses that were probably floating around here. What better way to cleanse them? After all, they didn't want to accidentally carry any diseases back to India from here, surely. and hand sanitizers hadn't been invented yet, so fire was perfect. Believe it or not, that's what Sita did. She stepped into a big fire that was lit just for her, and she was completely unharmed. And that is entirely because Sita is a goddess herself. Lakshman was a little alarmed by Sita's decision to step into the fire. But Ram and Sita, who were both aware of Sita's goddess abilities, reassured him. Now, Sita maybe could have challenged everyone else to go through the same cleansing fire. After all, they had all been here in this foreign land. They might carry infection as well. But she really didn't. There isn't much to tell after that, other than that Vibhishan became king of what was remaining of Lanka, and Indra came down and granted Ram's wish of bringing back to life all the Vanars who had passed away in this conflict. You might ask why Indra didn't also bring back Dasharath and Jatayu back to life. The simple answer is that they didn't want to. Indra asked them, but Jatayu said he was past his prime, and Dasharath decided that returning to Ayodhya would mean that Ram would stay crown prince, and Dasharath would have to become king again. For an octogenarian, that would send off major Biden vibes. Smart decision. Ram, Lakshman, Sita didn't want to stay on too long. Their priority was a return to Ayodhya. Coincidentally, the 14 years of their exile were just up. Not that anyone was keeping count. Lakshman just happened to notice when he saw the calendar in the Lankan palace. And no, they couldn't attend Ravan's cremation or stay back for Vibhishan's coronation, as much as they wanted to. It was a long trek back over the ocean, the hills, the plains, the Deccan Plateau, more mountains, more plains, all those rivers and lakes to cross in between. Hey, it doesn't have to be a long trek, you know. You can just take Pushpak, Vibhishan said. Pushpak was Lanka's flying chariot. Vishwakarma, the great builder, had made it for my dad, Brahma, the creator of the universe. But Brahma has his own ways of getting around, and he didn't need a flying chariot. So he passed it on to Kuber, the god of wealth. Ravan had stolen it from Kuber back when he took over Lanka. Now, this Pushpak Viman was Vibhishan's to command. So obviously, Ram, Lakshman, Sita could fly first class, non-stop, to Ayodhya. And because the chariot was driven by birds, there were practically no CO2 emissions to worry about. About as low a carbon footprint as they could hope for. That was something the Ayodhya folks gladly accepted. So they bid their goodbyes, wished Vibhishan the best of luck in ruling Lanka. They wished the Vanars the best of luck in getting back to their kingdom back across the bridge. And then they took off. That's about it. I do get that the story becomes less interesting once Ravan is destroyed. But there are a few moments of drama left in this great epic. There is the birth of Love and Kush, Ram's twins, and there are a number of peripheral stories left outside the main storyline. We may cover some of them. Not anytime soon, though. Fun fact, Vibhishan, Hanuman, Jambavan are Chiranjeevs, meaning they are immortal. There are other Chiranjeevs too, many from the Mahabharata. Sometimes I'm fortunate to be considered part of the club, so to speak. We do occasionally get together and talk about the good old days, which in our case happened a really, really long time ago. Previous Ramayana episodes are linked in the show notes and on the site sfipodcast.com. Check them out. In the next episode, we'll cover a story from the Mahabharata. This won't be from the main storyline, but it does feature one of the very main characters, Arjun, and a surprise cameo by a character you may not have expected to encounter in the Mahabharata. Thank you all for the comments on social media and on Spotify's Q&A. I can't directly reply to the questions there, but I'll address them here on this show. MCKS, yes, an Akbar Birbal story is lined up. Jen, Kyra and Hiranmayi, thank you as always for the support. Shikha, I wish you a happy birthday and I hope you have a wonderful time. Unfortunately, 2 days is simply too short a notice for me to put together a specific episode. But the next Chandrakanta episode is not that far away. Abhinav? Well, Ravan's dead. You got your wish. Samay? Cricket really doesn't feature in Indian history much. So I can't really do much with it other than anachronisms like we saw today. Shalu? Thank you for the honest feedback. I will keep that in mind for next time. I have to admit, with all the body swapping that was going on in the previous episode, it might have been hard to keep track of who was in whose body at what time. Maybe I should have made a pretty visual to go along with that story. Madhu? Yeah, the minister was totally giving off Tantri the Mantri vibes. Druhin, thank you for the kind words. Yes, I do plan to cover Anasuya's story soon. As for Ravan's encounter with Shiva, I've already covered that. Check out episode 202 of this show. If you have any other comments or suggestions, or if there are particular stories you'd like to hear, please do let me know by leaving a comment or a review on the site sfipodcast.com or reply to the questions on Spotify's Q&A. You can also find me on Instagram and Facebook. You can listen to the show on all podcast apps, and that now includes YouTube. If you want to send me an email, it's storiesfromindiapodcast@gmail.com. Be sure to subscribe to the show to get notified automatically of new episodes. A big thank you to each and every one of you for your continued support and your feedback. The music is from purpleplanet.com. That's purple-planet.com. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time.